Earlier this year, I began the 88th Armory with the idea of adding some variety to my, and maybe some viewers' arsenals by looking at weapon and Warframe builds that can work for the mid-game, where we play a lot of Warframe's experience and see what might make it into or close to the endgame. What I found in doing this was that I want to put everything on the table. Warframe is a game most often played in the mid-tier of its difficulty. This means facing enemies that are somewhere from 25 to 45 in level, give or take 5 levels. But what I found in attempting to point out in some of these weapons and builds that I enjoy in my mid-game play was that there are tons more to be had than even I thought. What we're looking for here is more variety, more fun in our Warframe experience. I still want to focus on more weapons, builds, and combinations for the mid-tier of the game where we often have a lot of our play, but I want to put all options on the table to find these elements of enjoyment through diversity, which is a lot of what Warframe has to offer. I'm Scott from Ramble Entertainment, and this is the new version of Season 1 of the 88th Armory. Let's find our fun, let's find our variety. So today what we want to look at is a keep-away explosive frost build. Originally, when I was toying with using explosives again and kind of bringing them back with these max rank mods and making them kind of effective, finding what can be effective with them so that you don't blow yourself up as much, because come on, it's going to happen unless you're using a Panzernix or if you're really good about mitigating damage and your energy with a Undying Wukong, and I went over both those, so here's those links if you want them. And so originally my thought was a compressed bubble frost, where you shrink the bubble down to a minute size and the bubble keeps the explosion damage out. That was my original thought before I did the Panzernix video. And that didn't work, because the explosive just pierces the bubble and it doesn't matter. But then I was just like, well, can frost still function with this? And of course, the answer is control frost, or more suitably, keep away frost. A frost that basically uses a ginormous bubble to slow enemies from getting within close proximity to him, using frost wave, the ice wave, and of course you still blow yourself up, so bear that in mind. Using the frost ice wave with its ice wave impedance, keeping enemies further away from you, basically, or slowing them down, or even highlighting them in white to help you identify and make them explode. But yeah, keep away frost with explosives is actually quite effective in my mind, and I just wanted to get out here and recommend it as what will likely be one of the last explosive builds for the season. Gonna continue to look at weapons and stuff as I start to wind down on Season 1, and of course there are still weapons like the Tsar. The Tsar I was actually originally going to use for this build, but I haven't finished formatting it, and its cluster bombs kind of just seem to go wherever the fuck they feel like. So yeah, I would say that this build kind of focuses on the Ogris, and I wouldn't use the Coal Star because its cluster bombs kind of just go wherever the hell they want. And then the Penta, I've lost track of its grenades, so I didn't even bother trying it with this Keep Away Frost, because if I feel like if I just lose track of its grenades easily enough, then it's not really worth attempting that when there isn't any measure with this frame to keep it alive with explosives outside of simply keeping the enemies far enough away so that you can use explosives on them. I don't use the Angstrom. I've been meaning to bust it out, experiment with it, get it formatted, see what I think of it again. I didn't like it originally, but I think that the Angstrom could potentially be another option with some of these frames that have more utility with explosives. Anyway, so with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at Frost and refresh ourselves on our Ogris build. So with some Clem footage playing in the background again, because we already know how powerful explosives are, I wanted to take a look at the Ogris again. But I can't think why. You know, it's one of those things that's like on the tip of your tongue and you just can't remember what the heck it is, and I'm being a douche. I got the one of what could be called the Ogris Riven dreams. Yeah. Damn. I'm still probably going to re-roll this. My belief on re-rolling Riven mods past 10, especially once the consoles, my console account has the cap for re-rolls past 10 as well. I believe that the ones that are worth re-rolling are really the ones that are already good. They're the ones that are worth that cost, so you can continue to try to see if you can get more out of something that you already utilize. So that's my own personal philosophy, although I hate to use the word in that sense since I have a minor in philosophy. But yeah, got a Riven that is phenomenal for the Ogris, and so outside of that, same thing with my old Ogris build. If you want to replace the choices for the weapon, I think some of the good choices are Firestorm and Nightwatch Napalm, where I use those to improve the area of effect and damage over time, but of course those can easily be replaced for other things like firing speed and more damage. I don't think the Ogris really stands to have much of a status build, so that's not really worth building for if you choose to replace either of those, but you can obviously add a good amount of damage still. Obviously not using heavy caliber, because heavy caliber just makes the shots go all over the place. So let's take a look at our two different Frost builds. This was the first Frost build that we used in the first footage on the what was that? That wasn't the Fortress tile set. It was the Fortress tile set. That was the Fortress Mobile Defense. So Ice Wave Impedance, I called it Impedance, and then I am re-recording this section, and in the original recording I looked up Impedance, and it means something to do with electricity. It reads, the effective resistance of an electric circuit or component to alternating current arising from the combined effects of ohmic resistance and reactance. Obviously, that's just the Google definition. I could click through and look at wiki definitions and different definitions on Merriam-Webster, but anyway, I'm going to call this impotence. Either way, Ice Wave Impedance slows the enemies with an additional 12 seconds of freezing, which I think is phenomenal when you are using this control style to keep enemies as far away from you as possible. And I think that the two other major choices in a Frost build that really don't apply to this style of Frost, where you're keeping the enemies away using explosives, boils down to whether you want to use Redirection or Vitality. You could use Steel Fiber. I am a player who really likes to use a lot of quick thinking on a lot of different frames. Frost is one of the very few I won't use that on. Lately, I've been experimenting with Vitality. I'm not partial to either Vitality or Redirection. I am partial to Rejuvenation over Physique. And that's really all that boils down to, our personal choices in our mid-game play. So, outside of that, then in the background footage, what I'm using is a 190% Control Frost, using Endurance Drift to amp up the amount of energy I have at a time, and of course using both Chilling Glow and Ice Wave Impotence, because, you know, what the heck, might as well slow and prevent enemies from getting close to you as much as possible. So Chilling Glow basically allows a 50% chance to stop an enemy in their tracks, keeping them from getting close to you, especially if you turn around and reactionarily with the Ogris blow yourself up if you are holding the charge, instead of meleeing them. So things to bear in mind, I mentioned in the first footage that I don't really use the Cold Star or the Penta Czar with this build, just because Frost doesn't really prevent damage, he just keeps enemies away from him. So let's go ahead and get into our final footage. So once again, we're kind of stepping outside of our usual with some sortie footage, first tier sortie, first mission sortie, and utilizing this combination of Keep Away Frost with the Ogris. Really, I just brought this into the sortie and was just having a lot of fun with it, so I thought I would use the footage, so I saved it. And really, I think a lot of what this comes down to is explosives are already powerful, and being able to apply them in different parts of the game is a lot of fun. And so, yeah, take them to the sortie, use them in your mid-game, use them however you wish, and I think we're just going to let the footage play, and of course come back and talk about some of the positives and negatives of the build. So let's let it play out.
We have successfully decoded the message. Clear the area. I have detected another message incoming. Capture and decode the signal. You have captured a radio tower. We are in total control. Keep fighting.
So one of the obvious drawbacks to the weapon is being very careful with where you pick your targets. Obviously, just a moment ago, I was in the midst of a bunch of enemies, but with Control Frost, what we have the opportunity with here is to make sure things are extra slow, especially with a Nova on the team. I forgot to remove the team names again, sorry, random people I joined a sortie with. But yeah, being able to have control over the enemies, slowing them down, freezing them in their place, allows us the opportunity to pick and choose our shots more carefully. And there are other frames like this, but I think Frost presents also a more unique opportunity to keep more damage off him from enemies, and just controls the environment around him. And god, explosions are cool. I love just watching all the numbers bounce and fly all over the place. But yeah, most obvious drawback is that you will kill yourself, and you have to be careful what explosive you choose when utilizing a Frost explosive build, mostly because of the issue of Coalstar, Tsar, Penta. You can lose track of these extra shots, these cluster bombs, and they can kill you. I'm probably gonna try the Angstrom with this soon, working on some other weapons, and gonna have a pair of more weapons coming for us this week. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed another just kind of fun, cool opportunity to use more explosives in our game that kind of limits how we can use these self-damaging explosives. And you guys have a good one. Happy holidays out there, and if you liked what we had to do here, do the thing, and we'll see you next time.